I'm Dr. Jam Katari.
And I'm Dr. Sally Moore. And this is a Myeloma Minutes, a podcast for people affected by myeloma, patients, friends and family. So, hello, good evening, everyone. Hello to all our listeners and hi, Jam. Great to see you again. It feels like it's been a while since we had a catch up. Here we are, run up to Christmas, and all is going well with you?
Lovely to see you, Sally. Welcome back from the ASH meeting. I heard you had an excellent time, and it feels like that time of year where we should have our Christmas special.
And indeed we do. We've got quite a special today, actually. And I think we may have given you guys a forewarning about it in advance, but we've got some really dear friends and total experts in the field of myeloma joining us today to talk us through really what on earth has happened over the last year in terms of myeloma in the UK, but on that broader piece as well. So a little bit of a look back at how far we've come and also a point towards the future and what might be ahead for 2026 and beyond. So I'm delighted that with us we've got Dr. or Professor Karthik Ramasamy. He's a colleague and friend from Oxford. And then Ceri Bygrave, who's also a colleague and friend from Cardiff and kind of heads up the service there in Wales. So lovely to have you both. Thank you for giving up your precious time to join us today.
Hi, Sally. Hi, Jam. And hi, Karthik. And thanks to you all for inviting me on the show this evening. I've been an avid listener since you started, and it's really nice to be part of the crew. The end of the year, and for me, my year is mainly spent working in Cardiff. I head up the myeloma service at the University Hospital of Wales, but I'm also part of the UK Myeloma Society. It's been a big year for the society, and we'll walk you through some of the developments that have happened there as well as some things from clinical trials. So looking forward to this chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Ceri. Flattery will get you absolutely everywhere. It's a real joy and we're privileged to have you here with us. And now, Karthik, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sally. Thanks, Jam and Ceri, for inviting me to this special podcast. I've been in awe with what you guys are doing. And the reason for that is obviously we all chat myeloma when we kind of get together, about what things happen, but really to kind of communicate that to the outside world in a way that they can engage and relate, understand what really we all reflect internally is an amazing time in the care of myeloma patients. And to be able to engage the community around us, patients and everybody else, I think it's been quite nice. I'm really keen to have a chat with you all about the massive things that have happened in 2025, and I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you very much, Karthik. So fun fact about me and Karthik that I should share. So when I first met him at King's College Hospital, feels like a long time ago now, about 15 years ago, he was my boss. Yeah, he may look 10 years younger than me, but he was actually my boss. So Karthik was, I think, a first-year haematology registrar, and I was doing my first haematology job as an SHO. What can I say? I liked the subject. He inspired me. And then before you know it, we've been consultant colleagues for, best part of a decade. What we did, Ceri and Karthik, is we asked you to pick 3 things from 2025 that have really made an impact on the way you think about myeloma, the way you talk about it, things that have directly impacted patient care, whether it be a trial or a service development, or things maybe that you've just seen at the recent ASH meeting. So we're going to start maybe appropriately with smouldering myeloma. So Karthik, if we start with something that really caught your eye.
Smouldering myeloma treatment has been a challenging discussion within the community. It has been looked at as a potential way of stopping myeloma happening altogether by kind of preventing myeloma, but by many folks. And I think quite rightly with some of the early data, but the biggest concern, vast number of people may actually not convert to active myeloma. There's still an ongoing debate, and there should be. The reason why the Aquila study, which was published recently, caught my eye is really opened the doors for considering treatment in routine care, meaning we've now got the treatment daratumumab now approved both in Europe as well as in America. So patients can receive treatment with daratumumab for smouldering myeloma. But the challenge that remains is that whether treatment is appropriate for all groups of smouldering myeloma, what is going to happen to patients who've received treatment for long periods of time during their life journey, whether they would ever receive treatment for myeloma and what that would look like for them would be interesting for us to see. But the reason I picked this as my top kind of paper is because I think it's really opened the door for treating smoldering myeloma. And there are many large trials that are being prepared and will be soon rolled out. And these are the phase 3 trials that are going to happen, which are now going to challenge the daratumumab with other therapies. So essentially, we've opened the gates for this. So we need to have this robust debate about what is appropriate, how long, and who to treat. And I'm hoping to see more of that debate within our community, both through clinical trials and discussion.
I mean, Karthik, it's so interesting that you've chosen this abstract because I think it really does shift our mindset, doesn't it, in terms of treating myeloma. For so long, it's been a case of, well, you've got myeloma, we'll do our best, we'll try and keep things on an even keel for as long as possible, but there you are. Whereas actually, this is flipping it in a totally different direction, isn't it? Very much towards, no, let's aim high. Let's try and nip it in the bud and see if actually we can stop it from ever becoming problematic. And I guess, am I right in saying that's why this is so exciting for you and for the community, because it's that shift in mindset to something which potentially could be game-changing?
I mean, the way I'm starting to kind of think about this is what would a patient with smoldering myeloma kind of think about? I mean, they may have been in and out of clinic over the last 5 years to a particular hospital and then thinking, I hope I don't ever get active myeloma. But then if they now are present as an option, how are they going to kind of think about it and what type of discussion they would be having with their doctors when potentially, this gets approved. So that's an interesting way of thinking about it. And I'm also thinking about doctors who've always only ever did blood tests and watched and did maybe scans on and off if they're a bit concerned, to switching to kind of treat patients and then monitor them over a period of time. So I think it's a really interesting shift in the dynamics of treatment of myeloma, and certainly some of the active agents that are coming through are potentially going to give very deep responses, which means prevention may potentially be possible in a proportion of patients. So I think it's really, really exciting. In a cancer where we're struggling to diagnose early, why would you not, in the appropriate group of patients, give treatment early and potentially prevent the myeloma from happening?
Well, so Ceri and Karthik, in light of that, and in light of what you said, that the pitch for treating smouldering myeloma, basically, Karthik, if you were to predict where we might be in this conversation in the end of 2026, where do you think that'll be? And Ceri, I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that as well, where this could take us, or even 2030. Let's really fast forward a little bit.
I agree with Karthik. This is really exciting data, and I think this is a group of patients where, for many of them, the agony of watching and waiting is actually worse than any treatment might offer. I also think it's good for patients that daratumumab is the drug that is becoming one of the front runners, because for me, daratumumab is actually one of the best tolerated drugs that we give. I've barely seen a patient who didn't tolerate a monoclonal antibody. So that's really good on the kind of first do no harm toxicity side of things. I am a believer in treating smoldering myeloma. I think there is value. But I think we do need to get better at selecting the patients that really need that early treatment, because one thing we know about smoldering, just like all kinds of myeloma patients, is that no two are the same. And within the category that we define as smoldering, there's some with a much higher risk of developing symptomatic myeloma, so bone disease and kidney failure, which we all want to avoid. And there's some where that risk is actually lower. So I think for the audience, the main thing to take away is that, as Karthik said, there is now a drug that we can use both in Europe and the US to start treatment early, but it doesn't mean it's going to be applicable to everybody or the right thing for everybody. And there need to be really honest conversations with doctors and teams about who it might be right for.
So I think what we're all saying is that patient selection is key.
Yeah.
We've all been in this game for long enough, and unfortunately we've all seen patients we've diagnosed with smoldering myeloma, and then 3 or 6 or 12 months later they come back, multiple fractures in the spine, and this would have been completely avoidable if they were treated a bit earlier. And Karthik, when we talk about that patient selection, that's an area I think we need to do a lot more work in.
You're quite right, Jam. I think as a principle, these trials are establishing if you start treatment early, you could bring in that prevention concept. But the selection of the right patients is probably the area where we have to do more work. The science around smoldering myeloma is getting better. We've always done a lot of science in active myeloma, but not enough science in smoldering myeloma. But all of that has to be really accelerated over the next few years so that when we're choosing our patients, we're doing the best decisions in our clinics.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, watch this space, and we look forward to sort of talking more about smouldering myeloma on the pod next year. Thank you, Karthik.
Thank you for listening to the Myeloma Minutes podcast, proudly partnering with Myeloma UK. For more credible myeloma-related material and support, please visit the Myeloma website at myeloma.org.uk. That's myeloma.org.uk. Or call the info line on 0800 980 3332, which you can find in this episode's description.
So, Ceri, can we move to your first highlight of 25, please?
Sure. Well, I'm going to continue this theme of, I guess, variability in myeloma, and, no two patients are the same. And I think you have talked a bit before about the difference between high-risk disease and standard risk disease, which usually is defined on the basis of genetic tests. There has been a change to the IMWG, the International Myeloma Working Group's definition of high-risk disease this year. So this was published at the EHA meeting in Milan, which I think all of us on this call were actually at. Probably one of the hottest conferences I've ever attended, but somehow we got through and there were lots.
Wasn't it?
It was so hot. I mean, it was so humid.
Ice cream, Ceri, Italian ice cream.
I know. I mean, Sally just went to Lake Como.
Yeah.
She left. She goes, I'm going for a swim in the lake. I'm off. And I'm there going, well, I'm a bit more committed than that, Sally, but each to their own. But sorry, I digress.
I mean, I think most of us were actually in the session when this was presented. So the new IMWG definition of high risk was first talked about in June, and more data has come out over the year. And I think, this is a difficult concept for hematologists that don't do myeloma to get their head round, and it's definitely a difficult concept for doctors who are not hematologists to get their heads round. So in really simple term, high-risk patients generally have sort of an inferior response to treatment, so they may either not respond as well, or they may respond, but then their disease comes back more quickly. And so what we want to try and do is pick out those patients as early as possible, ideally at the beginning, so that we can have informed conversations with them about what life might look like. And ideally, we can change the way we treat them to try and give them a better chance of staying in remission for longer. Although I would say that isn't always possible yet in the UK. But what the IMWG have done is they've tried to provide clarity on what high-risk disease is. And the main sort of takeaway from it is that by applying this new definition that they've come up with, the number of patients that can be classified as high risk will actually shrink, which is a good thing. So because some of the definitions used before were a bit more loose, shall we say, for example, they allowed a genetic mutation to be called high risk if it was only seen in 1 in 10 myeloma cells in the biopsy, which 1 in 10 of anything is pretty low. 5 in 10 would be better, or 7 in 10, you'd be even more confident that that was really an issue. So they changed that around. And they've also brought in some additional features using what we call genomic testing to pick up high-risk markers that we couldn't necessarily see before, and we couldn't see using the FISH testing that we commonly use in the UK. And the reason I think this is relevant to the UK audience is because people like us want to have access to these genomic tests. We know that we need to be able to better understand who's got high-risk disease and who doesn't. And when a big global body like the IMWG makes it part of their definition, it means people like us negotiating with our employers and our workplaces and our laboratories about bringing in new tests for our myeloma patients have got something to back us up that's been published by the IMWG, because we see this data when we go to conferences, but we're not always able to leverage it and bring it to our patients. But I think there have been some changes to the definition that we hope to roll out next year in the way we do our diagnostic tests on our UK myeloma patients. So I think that's a really exciting breakthrough.
So, Ceri, can I just ask you, so much to drill down into there, isn't there, really? If I've understood you correctly, what you're referring to is the prospect of precision medicine for our patients going forward. But is it fair to say that genomic testing is available now, that most patients in the UK should be able to access it, although at the moment, embedding that into treatment choices isn't yet standardized. Have I understood you correctly?
So the standardization process is ongoing, and all of you would know that the team from the Oxford lab has been leading on that, and we do hope that that will be rolled out early next year through the kind of 9 UK hubs. So that's great. That's a great piece of work. Whether all patients have access to it now, I don't think they do. Should they? Yes, I think they should. And so that's the first point, being able to get the tests done and get the data available. The bit about changing treatment, again, there have been trials for high-risk patients. Our very own Martin Kaiser, Matt Jenner from the UK ran a really successful trial called MAC9 or Optimum just for high risk. And then obviously we've got Karthik and Kui Yong from UCH who are the co-CIs of RADAR, and RADAR has a high-risk arm as well. So we know that the data from MAC9 that's been published already has shown you can improve the outcome for patients with high-risk disease. And Karthik presented some great data at ASH about the first 70 high-risk patients in RADAR. There is chance of improvement for these patients, but we do have to get the definition right at the beginning. And that's where I think this is a really exciting development.
Brilliant. We'll watch this space. Let's see how it happens and how we roll that out. And Karthik, fabulous. It was so good to see your data. It was so well received as well, wasn't it? And actually, when you were there, because I was sat in the audience, it's in this huge room, isn't it? And it's all dark. You can't really see who's sat around you. But when you compare the outcomes of the clinical study, which many of our listeners may have been enrolled, to RADAR with what's gone before, it's just fantastic, isn't it, to see that progress sort of month on month, year on year. Through the work that you and Ceri as well, that you've done as well in terms of high-risk disease too. So exciting, good progress.
I mean, just to add to that, Sally, I think one of the things that I really want to take my hats off to, the 4 of us are kind of committed myeloma doctors, but there are many myeloma doctors around this country who continue to put patients into large phase 3 clinical trials and give their patients in their local geography an opportunity to get a differentiated treatment. You made a right point around we can't currently differentiate because of how the rules are, and hopefully with better choices we will be able to differentiate. But at this time, entering these clinical trials, and RADAR was open in over 80 hospitals, and more of our studies are opening in at least 50% of the hospitals in the country, and patients are getting the opportunity. So hats off to all the doctors and patients who are involved in these clinical trials.
To be able to define the group better is going to allow us to develop better treatments, because we all have seen how difficult it can be, unfortunately, to not only get high-risk patients into remission, but keep them in there. And I think in the last 10 minutes, we've spoken about the work that has been done in the UK. And I think it's an exciting time over the next few years to really improve outcomes for this, difficult group of patients.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ceri. Really interesting and important highlight of 2025. So Karthik, to your second highlight, please.
I'm going sci-fi.
Sci-fi.
So,
here we go. The first sci-fi podcast of the Myeloma Minutes.
It is just unbelievably amazing that myeloma, being a very small kind of tumor space, has one of the most innovative treatments being developed. And this is the in vivo CAR, as they call it. But in very simple terms, rather than taking people's cells, sending it away to another foreign country to have your CAR T cells manufactured and brought it back into UK and then giving an infusion, you'd rather just do it probably even better in your own human body by just having an injection and cook your own CAR T cells inside your body. These in vivo CAR T cells are really, really exciting. Conceptually, this was talked about over 2 years ago. But in this year, we've got 2 independent reports. One was presented at the ASH meeting from Australian doctors, and a few months ago in Lancet, a premier publication, there was a Chinese report of 4 myeloma patients. And both reports, obviously there are some complexities around how this technology works in both these different methodologies, but conceptually we've now got human experiments of 8 myeloma patients being treated with this new technology, and all patients are going to remissions. And thankfully, up until now, we haven't seen any complications. Those were anticipated. But as with any trials, they start with small doses and gradually kind of building up. So I'm excited because I'm excited for more innovation in myeloma. I'm excited because this means we could potentially do CAR T cells without much of the big infrastructure and the labor-intensive nature of how CAR T cells have always been thought about and designed. So I'm really sitting in awe as to what the future may hold, brushing shoulders with many doctors in the US and pharmaceutical companies who are involved. I really think this is going to be a major investment, and we are definitely going to see these products that we'd be giving our patients. Not even in 5 years' time, as Sally, you're talking about 2030, dare I say, even before for some of our patients. So to me, it was just mind-boggling to see this.
So Karthik, again, I saw this and I remember I was sat next to my colleague. This was barely a week ago now, actually. And I just turned to my colleague and went, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But I just wonder, it was genuinely, I found jaw-dropping, wasn't it? Could you explain to our listeners why we are so excited about this? What is the Sci-Fi component of these in vivo CARs? Because we're yet to do a podcast on CAR T-cell therapies, aren't we, Jam? So actually some of our listeners may not be so au fait with what it is. Could you speak to that? But it is somewhat confusing, isn't it?
In vivo essentially means in the living body. How does it even work?
So obviously there are now CAR T cells approved for myeloma, where some people may have had stem cell transplants where we take stem cells out of the blood. Once we make the stem cells come out into the blood is what we've been doing for 30, 40 years in myeloma. But we can now plug patients' veins into the machine and then get the circulating normal T cells, which protect us from immunity, coughs and colds and so on. These T cells inside the myeloma person's body is not actually actively attacking their myeloma. So you need to educate them. So you take out a certain number of T cells, not all T cells, a certain number of T cells, send them away to a drug company as a blood bag. And what they do is they go through several processes within their laboratory to give us back a simple 100 ml bag with the CAR T cells now educated with the receptors being put in it. And these T cells, when given back to the myeloma patient, their own T cells now with the receptor is able to, when infused, instantly go and find myeloma cells and kill them. We have been excited and hopefully in the UK we'll be doing CAR T cells for patients. But the real difference with that in vivo, as Jam said, is the fact that there is a big process that is happening outside of the patient's body, which involves many sets of processes. But if the human body can make its own competent, CAR T cells through a technology that is well engineered, and that's where the innovation comes in. So if you can educate our own body's T cells to make that CAR T cell rather than making it externally outside through these two different technologies. One, there are some viral technologies, and there is the other technology called LNPs or nanoparticles, which kind of go in, bursts in the liver, and stuff gets released and goes into the T cell, comes into the T cells, and T cells start dividing. And a few days later, the total lymphocyte count goes up, and then they all become CAR T cells, and then they start killing. So it's really, really exciting. To me, and for this to happen in myeloma as a first, as a medical research is just massive.
So basically your body is becoming the drug factory. It's doing what the drugs can't otherwise do, but you're using your own immune system to do that, but you're just tinkering with it. So it's like that. I remember people always talk about a silver bullet. It's almost like that, really. It's just perfectly matched to the myeloma cell.
Homeschooling, Sally, right? It's educating T cells. You heard it here first. Don't go to university. You can teach it all at home. Ceri, what was your assessment of that work that was recently presented?
Yeah, I agree. It's really exciting, and it may well hopefully turn out to be one of those talks that everyone wishes they were at, this jaw-dropping moment that Sally was just describing. We've seen it with some of the other CAR T data. I think Constitute 1 continues to get better and better. Those curves just go on and on without bottoming out, meaning that people are still alive and progression-free. But now, as Karthik says, you've got a product where there's no external manufacturing. And one of the CAR T products that is approved, cell-to-cell, I think up to 20%, so 2 in 5 patients, the manufacturing actually fails. So for the patient, you could go through all the excitement and hope of wanting to have a CAR T cell treatment, only to find out that actually the CAR T cells couldn't be manufactured externally. And so removing that risk from the whole process would be a big breakthrough.
Well, let's watch this space. More trials coming to those to our listeners out there, and Well, we must do a podcast on this soon, Jam. I mean, it's so crazy.
Karthik, you've earned yourself an Instagram post with that. Just so you know.
Yeah.
No, that was absolutely brilliant. People were enthralled by it, and as you say, watch this space, and we'll see what it looks like in a couple of years. So it's how all the best Christmas specials come in 2 halves. I think it's a good point to stop, because we've just had 3 amazingly interesting and diverse topics to digest, haven't we?
Oh my God, there's so much to take on board there, isn't there? I mean, what fantastic insights. And I totally agree. It's like we've pulled open, Jam, the Christmas cracker, and look at what's popped out. These incredible discussions about what's happened in myeloma.
Yeah.
So, next instalment coming soon. But they fired the sort of starting gun, and it's so inspiring to hear them talk about what really enthuses them, isn't it, really?
Literally starting from, smouldering, the point where we haven't typically offered treatment, to now being in a position to treat some people. Karthik talks about sci-fi. I mean, gosh, it does sound like sci-fi, doesn't it? I mean, you're, homeschooling, you're educating your T cells inside your own body. I mean, incredible technology, and it's created a big stir. And then, what Ceri talked about also is so important, because it's a group of patients that really keep us up at night, because we know we need to do more for them. And by being able to define them better, that really puts us in a position where we can do that.
I couldn't agree more, and I know it's really been a passion of Ceri's and of Karthik's actually to try and tackle this question in terms of high risk. So it's really great to see that there is a recognition that all that hard work is coming to fruition, and actually that is filtering through to patients on the ground today. So, extraordinary, and that's why I guess it's so exciting. But I'm also really excited about next year, Jam, and what our Christmas special next year will have in store for us. Who knows? Sci-Fi in vivo cars and beyond. Let's watch that space.
A year's a long time in myeloma, and I do say that to patients as well, and they ask, well, when this stops working in X years or months, what will I have now? It's like, genuinely, I don't know. Where will you be when the music stops? Because things are moving so quickly, which is just so exciting.
Isn't it just? So, I mean, a really good way to wrap up, the year, isn't it? To celebrate all that they shared and what the future might hold for people living with myeloma.
And they've got so much more to talk about. So the next half of the Christmas special, we've got 3 other topics that they're going to talk about and we're going to discuss, and that will be available before the end of the year. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to hearing from you, listeners, about what you think about what we think is important. Just as a final thought, we do have a website, www.themyelomaminutes.com. So do check it out. Tell us what you think. All the pods are on there, and we're going to be adding more resources on there soon as well. I'll see you at the next one, Sally. Yeah, looking forward to it. See you soon. This has been the Myeloma Minutes. We hope you found this week's pod engaging, interesting, and above all, understandable and genuinely useful. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow the podcast and share it with anyone who might benefit, from your online support group, your medical team, to friends and family. And as always, if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover in the future episodes, please do get in touch. You can find us at www.themyelomaminutes.com or email us at themyelomaminutes@gmail.com. And you can find us on social media by searching The Myeloma Minutes on Instagram and Facebook. Many thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the next one.